Amorim's failure to adapt, move away from that three at the back has been cited as one of the reasons for his sacking. But what is the true story? Dave Reed has been looking into this for us. You've got the detail, Dave.
Yes, thank you, Bella. Good evening, everybody. Ruben out gone. But was it fair? Did he adapt? Did he evolve? And were United heading up or down under Amorim's leadership? Let's try and answer a few of those questions. First of all, what does the league table tell us? Let's take a look at Manchester United's position by day since the start of last season. We have the end of the Erik ten Hag era as he left in October with the team in 14th place. Then in comes Ruben Amorim. They were stable, but probably not in a good way, you must say. It was a poor domestic campaign, no improvement in league position, with United eventually finishing in 15th place. But look at the trend line from the start of this season. Fluctuation, yes, but certainly United are heading in the right direction, up rather than down in the league table. So to those formations then, you can't say anything different because according to the starting formations, Amorim did not want to move away from three at the back. He used it 46 times, only once against Newcastle on Boxing Day did United start with four at the back. Some might say they started with four against Wolves, but if you watch the game, it was definitely a three at the back. Now, these are starting formations, doesn't account for in-game system changes and differing strategies from game to game. I want to show you something from October last year. This is going to be against Brighton at Old Trafford. United with three at the back as the starting formation, but they defended in certain phases with four. Here it is. You've got Luke Shaw at centre-back. He's going to come up and engage the Brighton forward here, but it is a four at the back. Now, this is 2 months before United played Bournemouth at home, with Gary Neville describing Lenny Yoro as the secret right-back. But look, here is Lenny Yoro as the secret right-back. An in-game system tweak from Amorim. Flexible? What else has adapted and changed then? Well, in his last 14 games, United have gone longer more often. Let's start with possession first. That has decreased, but more long passes per game and a larger share of their total passes are going long. Marginal increases, I will give you that, but I think it is still worthy of note. And what is really significant, actually, is the change in the build-up routine. United's goalkeeper is now going long 65% of the time with their passes. A change there. And there's also a radical improvement in set pieces. Now, last season under Amorim, they scored 7 set-piece goals. That ranked them 12th in the Premier League. This season, they have already actually scored 13. That ranks them second in the division. And their expected goals from set pieces has gone from the 11th best in the Premier League up to the 3rd. Significant improvement. And speaking of expected goals, we have the underlying numbers here for you since Amorim took over. This is United's XG for and against on a 5-game rolling average. If you've never seen one of these before, the basics are the green line above the red, that's good. The red line above the green, that's bad. This is able to show us the quality of chances created by United versus the quality of chances conceded. And actually looking at XG over a longer period of time is much more indicative of performance than on a game-by-game basis, as you might see after certain games. Now, at the start of his reign, Amorim struggled to keep things locked up at the back. You can see the red line above the green there. But gradually, over time, United's attack has improved to the point where actually in the last 10 games, things have been largely positive. I will give you, though, the trend line is on its way down. Would those lines have crossed at some point in the near future? I am not going to stand here and say that Amorim wasn't wedded to the back three, because he was, but he did make some slight in-game tweaks and tactical changes along the way.
Thank you, Dave, with the details. So Darren Fletcher in interim charge, but the question now is who will be the next permanent head coach at United? What do we know about the club's plans for the short, medium and long term? Rob, I'll come to you on this one.
Yeah, so look, we know that Darren Fletcher is going to be in charge for the next game, Burnley away on Wednesday. I fully expect him to be in charge of Sunday's home game against Brighton as well. I can't see Manchester United making an appointment that quickly. What happens after then, I think, is a little bit up in the air. The conversations are accelerating over the coming days. Crucially, Manchester United have had no talks with any other manager as things stand right now. And I've been told that whilst some of the media sources are saying that Manchester United will appoint an interim until the end of the season. That is possible, but they've not yet made that decision, and it depends on who's available. It would be bonkers of Manchester United to appoint an interim if they were going to miss out on somebody who was available now. So until they've decided who they want, they can't really make that decision. And I think as well, a lot depends on how Darren Fletcher gets on in the role and how he gets the players to respond. What sort of performance levels are they seeing against Burnley and probably against Brighton as well? Longer term, there's some obvious candidates. Now, these are names that I've been told from a number of sources, not from Manchester United themselves, and it's them who will make the decision. So let's not get overexcited about these options. But Oliver Glasner is clearly out of contract with Crystal Palace in the summer and has had opportunities to sign a new contract and has not taken that opportunity. I can see Clinton cringing right now. But would he fit? Would he fit the profile of Manchester? He's very much a manager. Would he fit into that profile under Jason Wilcox and in that structure? I don't know if he would. Right. Marco Silva definitely would. He's another manager who's out of contract in the summer and I know has an awful lot of admirers. I mean, Carve knows an awful lot about Marco Silva. There's Xavi, there's Andoni Iraola as well, who's been mentioned to me, and there's Thomas Tuchel, who could be available after England's with the World Cup as well. So those are some big names, but they're completely different in their approach. And Manchester United are going to have to take some time now to have a think about who they want, who fits the structure, who's available, and who they want to kind of proceed with going forward from here. I think appointing Darren Fletcher in the short term has bought them some time. If things go well on the pitch, that might buy them some more time, and it is possible that Fletcher could be in charge for the remainder of this season.
Clinton, who would you like to see get the job? Who is the right fit for this red figure here behind us?
That's difficult, to be fair. Who's the right fit? There's a lot of good managers out there. Who wants to be a head coach or who wants to be a manager? That's what I'm saying. You can go toe-to-toe with a lot of managers, and I'm not saying managers are yes men, because that's totally different, but what I'm saying is you want a manager to go in there and Jason Wilcox say, I'm not happy with your tactics. He ain't doing that to Jose Mourinho, because Jose Mourinho is not taking that. And I don't think he does that to Thomas Tuchel, because Thomas Tuchel, you see how he is with the England squad. He don't listen to anybody. But then, I said it earlier, Tuchel, Pochettino. You know one name I throw to you? De Zerbi. De Zerbi, I've always liked him, and I think he's doing well at Marseille. And I think he's a very good manager, done well at Brighton. But it's being dictated. These managers don't want to be dictated. So maybe Man United, will they change? Will the owners above change and let them manage it instead of be called head coach? Right? It's a big one. Listen, I think what you said is Oliver Glasner, and he knows that formation, but it's different. He's got the players to do that at Palace. You can see the players don't buy into it at Man United. Can Oliver Glasner change? I haven't seen that at Palace because it's working at Palace, but can he go and do that at Man United? Who knows? And obviously he's not signed his contract, as Rob alluded to at the moment. They're still in negotiation. So he'd be a good one. The Bournemouth manager, Iraola. There's loads of top managers available at the moment. Well, will be available. But not now, come the end of the season. So that's why I'm saying this interim manager now, do they keep it with Fletcher? You just said the 2 games they've got, Burnley and Brighton. If he wins them 2 games, do you keep it? But it's an opportunity for Man United to get into the Champions League.
Look, Carve.
I think the benefit of waiting until the summer is that obviously there's going to be a lot more managers available, and because so many of them are going to be out of contract, they're not going to cost you anything.
That's
and
exactly
I think
right.
Since Sir Alex Ferguson left Manchester United, United have paid out, I think, more than £55 million to managers and their coaching staff who they sacked. And don't forget, when they appointed Ruben Amorim, they had to pay Sporting something like £11 million to get him out of Sporting. And they're going to have to pay him compensation as well. So don't forget the finances in all this. That's why it would make sense to wait until the summer. Having said all that, I think a club as big as Manchester United, you need to be appointing a manager now. There's still a lot to play for Manchester United. They can get into the Champions League. Why wait until the summer? If you're going to go for somebody like Tuchel, you missed out on him before because apparently you can sort out the wages that he was asking for. Who knows what's going to happen to England in the World Cup? Who knows what's going to happen to all these managers and all the different offers they're going to have? I think United need to move now and get the best person for the job in as quickly as possible.
OK. Bruno Fernandes has reacted to Ruben Amorim's sacking. His message to Amorim in Portuguese translates as, "Thank you, mister. I wish you and your technical staff all the best." Fernandes made the most appearances, scored and assisted the most goals during Amorim's time at the club. Elsewhere, Harry Maguire posted on his Instagram story, "Thanks for everything, boss. I wish you all the best for the future." Well, Louis Saha spent 4 years at Old Trafford and says the decision to part ways with Amorim now doesn't make sense.
Having that kind of like squad and managed it, you can ask any world-class manager. I doubt that they're going to do better. I doubt it. And every pundit who has like say, oh yes, this manager is not worth the Premier League and all that. Oh my God, it's just like harsh comments and just like make lines and I don't like that. And I think respect to the job that he's tried to do. And to be fair, I'm sure that any other manager will do the same with the squad, and the board has to look at themselves and say, oh, okay, some of the decision of the players maybe was right, some were not world class to actually get to a higher position. Doing this now, I don't think that's very logical for me. I do think that some has asked his head way before, so they will be happy, and that's where I think in terms of the trajectory, Manchester United is a club. And there is like a need of consistency, a need of like a decision that makes sense for 1 to 2 years or more, and that's not the case. Every time we come to a point where, oh, I pick the guy, but then I realize that this is not right, and I want to change maybe this aspect of it because I'm not pleased. That doesn't work this way.
I think it's just another example from my point of view that it's very difficult to achieve sustainable success if you change key personnel in clubs, like the head coach, like the sports directors. I think if you think you have the right ones and you're aligned, you need to do it over a long time. So now it's 2 clubs with 1.5 years. Again, I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that's actually the facts. In that sense, there could be many reasons for it. I just don't know. In this fantastic, beautiful football world, is you win one day and play well, you're in heaven. You lose and you don't play that well, and you're in.
First, Manchester United have sacked head coach Ruben Amorim just 14 months in charge of the club. He spent there at Old Trafford. Well, Sky Sports News understands that Amorim's emotional and inconsistent behaviour was a key factor in the decision, and a refusal to adapt and evolve his preferred 3-4-3 system led to a breakdown in confidence in the head coach. Well, United drew with Leeds yesterday, and in his post-match news conference, Amorim provided more headlines with his comments.
I noticed that you receive selective information about everything. I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not to be the coach of Manchester United. And that is clear. I know that my name is not Tuchel, it's not Conte, it's not Mourinho, but I'm the manager of Manchester United. It's going to be like this for 18 months, or when the board decided to change. I'm not going to quit. I will do my job until other guy is coming here to replace me. Guys, I just want to say that I came here to be the manager of Manchester United, not to be the coach. And every department, the scouting department, the sport director needs to do their job. I will do mine for 18 months and then we move on.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. When you were appointed, David Fletcher as the head coach.
OK, let's get straight to Daniel Kahn, who is live for us in Manchester. Dan, so much going on at the club, but actually they have got games to prepare for. So can you give us an idea of their plans in the short term and then also looking a bit further ahead?
Yeah, evening, Bella, Rob, Carvey, Clinton. Hope you're all enjoying the nice, warm studio. It's not as warm here in Manchester, but in terms of Manchester United's plans going forward, I mean, we know short term, Darren Fletcher, a club legend at Manchester United. He spent 13 years as a player. He came through the academy as well and won basically everything there is. Premier League titles, the FA Cup, a Champions League title. He will be in interim charge and take the team away to Turf Moor on Wednesday as they take on Burnley. We expect him to take pre-match duties tomorrow, and really there is no timescale on how long he's expected to be in charge of the first team. Now, looking at longer term Bella, it's very interesting because, of course, United can look at a quick permanent appointment, but there's maybe another school of thought that actually, first of all, they'll look at how Darren Fletcher does. I'm sure the hierarchy will start looking at how he takes the team, how he does those media duties tomorrow, how he handles the media, and how, of course, the team play on Wednesday. But whether they look to appoint an interim option appointment until the end of the season and then a more permanent solution in the upcoming summer, that may be more what we think could happen. But for now, Darren Fletcher is in charge. He's the current under-18s coach. He came back to United in 2020, joined Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's backroom staff, and then joined the previous regime as a technical director in the boardroom. And now he's been coaching the 18s, and there's been clips of him on social media today talking about his philosophy, talking about how he shows the 18s clips of vintage Manchester United counter-attacking football of the likes of Wayne Rooney, Park Ji-sung, Cristiano Ronaldo. That's what he believes the Manchester United DNA is: attractive, entertaining football. We didn't quite see that under Ruben Amorim enough. But look, for now, it is Darren Fletcher. That's what we know. And just to end on a positive note, what a moment it will be for him to take the team in training over the next few days, taking the team to Turf Moor, leading them, but also his two twin sons, Jack and Tyler Fletcher. They were both on the bench against Leeds. We've seen Jack Fletcher actually make his debut as well, and I actually saw Darren Fletcher in the box watching his son come on, and you could tell how emotional he was. So that will be also a great moment for the Manchester United legend as he takes the team to Turf Moor on Wednesday night.
Great stuff, Dan. Thank you. Poor guy's been in the cold all day. Right, Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher have given their opinion on the news. We're going to run those in full detail throughout the evening, but let's give you a snippet of the best bits.
I don't think it's been sound bites from Ruben Amorim. I think he's meant every single word that he said. I think that is a real, genuine, honest guy. I don't think he's someone who's playing the game like you see some managers do when they come and do interviews and you feel like they're sort of coming out with cliches. That guy never came out with cliches. He was absolutely all in every time he did an interview. I thought he was fantastic at times and would have wanted him to really see him succeed. But what I will say is, if the performances are that poor and the results are so poor, it doesn't matter how likeable you are, how honest you are, how much integrity you've got, you're going to get sacked at a club like Manchester United. I don't believe Manchester United should change for anybody. They should play the way in which they play. And these managers that have come in are fantastic managers. Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Eric Ten Hag, Ruben Amorim, they're brilliant coaches. You can't say they're not good coaches, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but they've all come in with different ideas, different styles of play, different philosophies, and none of them really fit the Manchester United way. So for me, the club have to find a manager now who's got experience, who's willing to play fast, entertaining, attacking, aggressive football. Simple as that. The most important thing is that Manchester United scouting department, recruitment department, sporting director have got their eyes open and basically have been seeing this coming over the last few months and have basically got an idea of what they need to do next and that they're going to come up with that quite quickly. You know, it's been a real struggle for the last 10 or 12 years for all these good managers and coaches that have come to Old Trafford to try and get the results that the club demand. And we can't keep getting it wrong. We've got to get it right at some point.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, listen, a little bit similar to Maresca in that I think what we're seeing now in football is sporting directors now are the most powerful people at football clubs. And, you know, if a manager, you know, steps out of line, certainly publicly, and criticises, you know, the powers that be or the people above them, it's going to have consequences. And listen, I think that's probably the same in sort of most jobs, really. So not surprised. Maybe the timing of coming so quickly, because it's not an ideal time, I think, for anybody to change a manager. You know, with so many games coming thick and fast. But I think it just shows now where the game's going in terms of, you know, the sporting directors at Chelsea and Manchester United and probably other clubs now up and down the country. They're not accepting a manager, certainly, you know, criticising the club or making cryptic comments in public.
Yeah, we do understand things came to a head in a meeting with Director of Football Jason Wilcox when he reacted badly to feedback about his tactics pretty quickly, as you said, just last week. Do you have any sympathy for Amorim?
Not really. No, I think listen, he's done a brilliant job at Sporting Lisbon, and he looked like a bright young sort of manager who could go on to to great things. Manchester United, the people who are there right now gave him a great opportunity to manage one of the biggest and best football clubs in the world, and it couldn't have gone much worse in terms of results. So I don't have too much sympathy, and that's why I was so critical of him last night on extra time, because basically the people who'd given him the opportunity, he hadn't sort of fulfilled their sort of ambitions in what he was going to do, for the football club. So they could have easily taken a decision a lot earlier than this to change the manager, maybe even at the end of last season on the back of the Europa League final. It was such a poor performance. It wasn't just about the results. And when you look at the league table with the 17 ever-present teams that have been part of the Premier League since Amorim's come in, I think Manchester United are 14th to 15th in that table. So, I mean, and that tells its own story.
Jamie, since joining Sky, you've watched and analysed numerous managers who've tried to get it right and failed at Manchester United. Where does Amorim rank for you in the post-Fergie era?
Well, he's probably at the bottom of that list, I would say. Because, I mean, you think it can't get much worse for Manchester United. And we've been critical of other managers because they haven't won the league, or maybe they just missed out on the Champions League. But we're talking about a team who finished, I think, 15th last season. That can't happen at a club the size of Manchester United, with the money that they spend every year, the players that they bring in. So, I mean, at times we've looked at it and been critical of other management, namely Ten Hag, but I think the worst it was for him, they finished 8th. So it shows you how bad it was at times last season. I know they find themselves, I think, in 5th position right now. But listen, they were never convincing at any stage, really, this season. And I think that the league is so tight that even teams who are in sort of 5th, 6th, 7th position right now could easily end up sort of 4 or 5 places further down the table very quickly because the league is so tight.
Yeah, as a pundit, did Amorim make your life any easier with some of his damning criticisms of his own team? The worst in Manchester United history springs to mind.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the best part of Ruben Amorim was actually his performances in the press conference, not the performances of his team. I think he was a great addition, to the Premier League in terms of, as I said, press conferences, doing interviews, coming out with one-liners. He's very quotable. He was great for us. I mean, that was an unbelievable thing to say. As I said, that we lapped up. But I mean, I couldn't believe that came out of his mouth actually. When talking about your own players and your own team, and at times it felt like he was almost like as good a pundit as Gary Neville when talking about Manchester United. So I think for 14 months he probably took the mantle as the best pundit on Manchester United actually. But the problem was he was the manager.
Yeah, you've already mentioned their current position in the Premier League. They are 6th, and in that fight for Champions League football, how risky a decision is it to change at this stage, do you think?
I don't actually think it is that much of a risk, really. I think if Manchester United could get somebody until the end of the season, or whether they have something lined up, I don't know. But I think a competent manager, Premier League manager, should be able to get Manchester United really close to the Champions League positions and really competing for it. Now, people will say, well, that's where Manchester United are right now. And that tells you the story of the Premier League this season. I don't think Manchester United have ever convinced at any stage under Amorim that things were really looking good, and they still find themselves in a healthy position in terms of a league position. As I said before, that can change really quickly because the league is so tight. But I think a good Premier League manager, there's enough talent in that squad, can have a real push, certainly for European positions. But the way the season is this season, when you look how poor Liverpool have been, how poor Chelsea have been as well, there could be a real opportunity for them to get Champions League. I don't think that will happen, but I do think Manchester United should have more than enough to get a European position.
We are coming up to 2 years of Ineos, and appointing Amorim was their biggest call to date. How much responsibility lies with them for this?
I think a lot, because they were going with someone who had a system that was sort of just not what Manchester United was about. It doesn't mean that system can't work. We've seen managers, namely Glasner this season with that system. But even in the past, when you talk about one of the giants of the Premier League, Chelsea have had it twice and been successful with Conte winning the Premier League title and Thomas Tuchel winning the Champions League. So it doesn't mean that the system couldn't work, but it certainly wasn't what you'd expect from Manchester United with the history and tradition the club have in terms of really exciting, fast, wide players. That system doesn't really buy into that. So the fact that he was chosen and they knew that he played that system and had great success at Sporting Lisbon means I think a lot of the bucks does stop at them.
Jamie, what do you think United should do now? We know that Darren Fletcher is in interim charge and, there have been some suggestions that they should wait until the summer when a host of names are available. What's your take?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree. I don't think, the manager pool is certainly full right now in terms of, great candidates. I mean, you look at Chelsea now bringing in Liam Rosini. He's a really good young coach. He's obviously in their system, but that is not what Chelsea are used to or should expect, really, or deserve. And I said that's not being disrespectful to Liam Rosini. He's a young coach. He's made a great stride. He's done brilliant in his young journey so far. But that, managing Chelsea, one of the biggest football clubs and successful football clubs in the last 10, 15, 20 years is not what they should have. So that tells its own story. I'm not quite sure where Manchester United go, but I do think it probably clever to wait till the summer when there's maybe more coaches available from other clubs or round about the World Cup situation.
Is managing Manchester United, is that still an attractive job, or do you think it's a poison chalice, Jamie?
No, it's an attractive job. It's one of the biggest clubs in the world and always will be, and should be a huge attraction to any manager. And I imagine being the guy who gets that right. You go back to Sir Alex Ferguson getting that right in these arguably, certainly one of the greatest managers we've ever seen in world football, and when he took it over, it was probably seen as a poison chalice. Hadn't won the league for over 20 years, and we're probably not far away from that again right now. But someone sooner or later will get it right at Manchester United. The club is too big to consistently fail. Someone will get that right, but hopefully that's in a good few years yet.
Thanks very much, Jamie. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Now let's talk about those players then. Did Manchester United back Ruben Amorim enough in the transfer window? And is this United team his own? Let's have a look. Since Amorim came in, only Manchester City, Arsenal and Liverpool had net spend than United. They spent £200 million net, and the majority of the cash was spent on reloading Amorim's attack. In came Benjamin Šeško, Brian Mbeumo and Matheus Cunha, all for big money. And despite wing-backs being a vital part of Amorim's system, only one senior wing-back was signed, Patrick Dorgo. He's really now been ditched in that area of the pitch and is being used further up the field. So can you really call this Amorim's team? And how does Amorim's first team selection compare to his last one? Well, this was the 11 that started against Ipswich at Portman Road, November 2024. And because of injuries and the Africa Cup of Nations, only 2 players survived to start at Ellen Road in the Premier League this time around. Diogo Dalot, Casemiro as well. And also, by the way, look at the bench. Options full of experience there, whereas the options for Ruben Amorim against Leeds, he had 5 teenagers on the bench. Did they give him enough money? Did he have enough time to spend the money? Did he spend it correctly?
Yeah, let's take a look at this. Rob, the club's plans for this transfer window, and as well as Ruben Amorim's own wants, did that have a role to play in what's happened?
Yes, they did. I mean, look, the people I've been speaking to have made it clear that it is not a difference of opinion over transfer policy that has led to the breakdown in relationship and ultimately Ruben Amorim leaving Old Trafford. But there was a difference of opinion. I think Ruben Amorim felt that with Manchester United just outside the Champions League places, I mean, what are they now, 3 points off the Champions League places? If Manchester United really went to invest in this squad in January, in what is probably not the strongest Premier League right now at the top end, he believes he could get them into the Champions League places with the huge financial reward that would come as a result of that, paying back any investment that Manchester United had made. From Manchester United's point of view, they are immovable in this area. They will not go back to a situation that they've had in previous years. It's what Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the rest of his Ineos team have been doing for the past couple of years, is trying to cut costs, make sure that they don't employ players on inflated contracts. Don't bring players in for the short term and then get stuck with them for the long term. And their argument has always been, yes, there were 5 teenagers on the bench against Leeds. They've got injured players coming back who are expected to play against Burnley on Wednesday night. They've got 3 players of top quality coming back from the African Cup of Nations in the next 10 days at the longest. And so they will not bend their policy, their plan. And they plan to spend pretty significantly in the summer on central defensive midfield players. If they were to spend money now to cover for the injuries or where Ruben Amorim felt they were lacking, that would have a direct impact on what they could spend in the summer, and they're just not prepared to do that. And so there was definitely a source of tension between the head coach and his bosses over that, but it was not the crucial factor in him leaving. The crucial factor, as we just said, the club felt that he'd been emotional and hadn't adapted his tactics enough over the long term.
Carve, the next head coach, will they be prepared to only have partly a say in transfers?
I think they'll have to. I mean, that's what's expected when you're a modern head coach. You're not going to have the final say. You will have an important say, but it's only your voice is only going to be one of quite a few voices. Now, I'm not sure that's the right way to go in football. I remember the way it used to be, when it used to just be a manager who used to decide. That's the way older-fashioned managers preferred it. Have things improved? I'm not so sure. If you look at all the squads of the top clubs, is it better having this new modern structure in place, or was it better in the old days? That's an argument for another day. What is undeniable is that Manchester United's recruitment policy has been atrocious, pretty much, for a long time compared to their rivals. It's been getting better. You can't fix it in one transfer window. It's going to take a period of time. It's going to take moving players out who are on big contracts, bringing other players in. But I thought this was a long-term project with Ruben Amorim. I thought that he'd signed up to the fact that this was going to take time, that he was only one of quite a few voices. But obviously, behind the scenes, things have gone on which have led the powers that be at United to conclude that it's not going to work with Ruben Amorim, and the best thing is for him to leave. During the window as well, I think it's significant that this has happened during the window, during AFCON, and at a time when he's been deprived of players like Bruno Fernandes because of injury.
Two things I would just say there, and it's following on from what Carve's just said. I think the fact that United are getting rid of Amorim and his backroom staff now is a significant cost. Carve's already mentioned that it's £55 million they've spent on managers and paying them off in recent times. That's going to have a huge impact on what Manchester United can do in this January transfer window. They weren't planning on spending big in this January window anyway. I think now it's going to be very, very difficult for them to do so and stick with their long-term planning. I know for a fact that Ruben Amorim was keen on Jean-Philippe Mateta and Danny Welbeck, and he had spoken to his bosses at Manchester United about the possibility of bringing one of those in. He feels he needs more attacking options, more striking options to go alongside Benjamin Sesko, who's taken a little bit of time to adapt to the Premier League. The truth is that was never going to happen. Manchester United spent a lot of money in attacking areas in the summer. They will turn their attentions to central defensive midfield players in the summer. So he knew that wasn't going to happen, but it's another sign of that friction. And Clinton, look, you know this more than anybody. There's always friction between head coaches, managers and bosses about transfer policy. Managers want to spend a fortune, clubs want to keep the finances tight, don't they?
Yeah,
that's nothing new.
No, that's nothing new. That always happens. And you know what? They spent a lot of money in the summer on attacking options, which they needed. Don't get me wrong. If I'm Ruben Amorim, I'm looking at Šeško and saying, you're not delivering. I do need probably a Mateta or Welbeck, who's previously been there. But what Man United could say is Danny Welbeck's at that age where if we're going to pay money for him, we ain't going to get kind of an investment. It's probably the same with Mateta, who's going to be 28, 29. But you look at that in the summer, he's got a year left at Crystal Palace. Maybe he can do the business now. I think the here and now, what Man United need is a centre midfielder. They're not going to get Belieber now, are they? Brighton are not going to let him go. It's going to cost something like 80, 90 million to get him at this moment in time. So, obviously, a manager will go and ask the hierarchy, the players that they want in there. You're always going to want to improve your squad. But I think the timing of it, you know what it is? You look at it now and you think to yourself, Ruben Amorim was doing all right. The problem is, and why we're sitting here and everyone's been talking about it all day, the reason he lost his job was the conversation he had with Jason Wilcox. Nothing else is what he had with Jason Wilcox. Because we've been screaming from when he's come at work the last year, Ruben Amorim needs to lose his job. And then all of a sudden, they'll get 3 or 4 games and they'll do well. Then they'll lose 2, and then we'll say the pressure's on, he's not going to change. Only the Pope will make him change. Well, he did change his formation in the end. And then you're looking at him thinking, well, you're 6 at the moment. No one's really talking about Man United. The heat was off you. You were getting results. You had the players, some of your best players away at AFCON. They're going to come back in a couple of weeks. And you're in a good position. The games you got coming up are very winnable. But obviously, it's that conversation he had with Wilcox. And in the heat of the moment, if he plays it back now, I bet Ruben Amorim is probably thinking to himself, I wish I didn't say nothing. But sometimes in the heat of the moment, everyone's been like that. You make a reaction, and it's cost him his job, evidently.
There's an awful lot there that Clinton's right about. I mean, look, it's a difficult situation to assess, isn't it? Because Manchester United have won one of their last 5. They were dreadful against Wolves.
Yeah, you're right.
They were dreadful against West Ham. And yet they're 6th in the table. They were 5th, and they could make Champions League football. So which of those is your priority? Which do you look at? From my understanding is, and Manchester United fans will have their opinions on whether this is accurate or not, but the club felt they didn't see a progression. They didn't see a consistency. They didn't see a settled plan. They didn't see him evolving the squad and adapting to his circumstances and the players that were available. And that, together with that falling out with Jason Wilcox, which has been coming for a long time now, meant that his position was untenable.
And Carve, what about those players out of favour? I'm thinking Rashford, Mainu, what could this mean for them?
I mean, Rashford, I think he's, got his priorities elsewhere now. Obviously, he wants to remain at Barcelona. I can't see him going back to Manchester United. But Mainu is an interesting one because obviously there was an issue with Ruben Amorim, and Ruben Amorim didn't think that he could play in the role that he wanted him to play in, and he was only going to be an understudy for Bruno Fernandes. Problem is that he was injured when Bruno Fernandes was injured as well. But it'll be interesting to see what happens now that Ruben Amorim has left, because there was lots of talk that Kobbie Mainoo may leave United. Did this have something to do with the fallout between Jason Wilcox and Ruben Amorim? Was Ruben Amorim pushing for Kobbie Mainoo to leave so he could bring someone else in, maybe somebody who's more suited to playing in the number 6 role? And did United actually push back and say, no, we're not letting Kobbie go because we believe he's got a big future at this club? And did Kobbie do what quite a lot of players do, which is actually to say, OK, this manager doesn't fancy me. Maybe what I just need to do is just keep my head down.
Wait it out.
Play the long game.
He kept his head
down. Who knows?
He did keep his head down. His brother didn't keep his head down with his T-shirt, but Kobbie Mainoo did keep his head down for sure.
OK, look, we've got so much more to get.
Indumentaria, la Kings Limited Gold Edition, solo hay 50 unidades de todos los equipos y también puede ser vuestra entrando en kingsleague.pro, así que es los datos a tener en cuenta en cuanto a indumentarias. Gran partido, Gonzalo, Gerard, el que tenemos por delante.
Ojo, estilo La Bombonera, estadio de River.
Hostia, más minutos de retraso en el inicio, ¿eh? Ya tenemos lío.
Lo llamó Edo, dibujando la parábola sobre la banda derecha, donde en el vértice del área aparece Nadir. ¡Nadir para adentro! ¡Gol! De Nadir Lua, que tiene una facilidad pasmosa. Encuentra a Pablo, que balón para Nadir para el segundo. Se tafa de Cócera, es un golazo. ¡Es un golazo! Señoras, señores, bienvenidos al show de Nadir Lua. Pibe.
El mejor.
Vamos
haciendo espionaje, ¿eh?
Vaya mierda ha dado, pibe. Va, ya te puedes ir a la cúpula a comer, va.
Tiene que salir Cócera para entregar hacia el centro. Se la regala Coy, le puede pegar Coy para adentro.
Vaya chicha, nano.
¡Gol! De Porcinos Óscar Coy. Ah, pues sí.
Pero es que, señores,
que no te lo dije.
Tenemos comodín. ¿Cómo lo usamos?
Penalti.
¿Será penalti?
Cuni.
Puede meter en el partido a Cuni. Jordi para adentro, qué golazo.
Wow. Dios.
¡Gol! Vamos con Nadir Lua y con Laura Vizcaíno.
Pues sí, Nadir, 2 goles, victoria y a cuartos, enhorabuena.
Sí, sabíamos que el partido iba a ser muy importante porque veníamos de una muy mala dinámica. El equipo ha estado bien, sufríamos defensivamente y creo que hemos estado muy juntitos. Y nada, primer objetivo cumplido.
Os espera Science, rival complicado, imagino.
Sí, empatamos contra ellos y shootout perdimos. Ha quedado segundo por algo. Nada, concentración, confianza con nosotros mismos y intentar ganar para el sábado estar en el Wizzing.
Pues lo veremos mañana, mucha suerte.